I'm really excited to share my story with you in this video series, where I'll talk about the 3 major aha moments in my life. In this first video, I'll tell you about my childhood and how a little girl who grew up in a shack with 8 siblings fulfilled her biggest dream of giving her mom a house. In the second video, I'll share how I decided to move countries after overcoming depression and started my life from scratch in Australia. And in the third and final video, I'll reveal the aha moment I had after struggling with fertility for 3 years. And I'll take you through my journey from engineering to helping busy people manage stress. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Fern, an engineer who fell in love with helping busy people manage stress and find happiness. If that's something you're into, subscribe and hit the notification bell to join our journey. The moments I'm about to share are pretty personal, but I'm not afraid to be vulnerable because I really want to connect with you. So please let me know in the comments below if you had similar experiences or if you have any thoughts. I would love to hear from you. So let's dive in. I grew up in a family of 9 kids in a poor neighborhood in Brazil. I have 6 biological siblings who are much older than me and 2 adopted brothers who are just a bit younger and grew up with me. My parents, they married very young and they were extremely poor. The house I grew up in was a shack made of rotten wood. The floor would break as we walked on it, and the neighborhood was really dangerous. My dad was an alcoholic and he would get physically aggressive towards my mom when he was drunk. I have terrible memories of my dad beating my mom and us constantly taking shelter in our neighbor's house. Dad also cheated on mom a lot, but he was never aggressive towards us kids, so I was never assaulted. Both of my parents weren't educated and they worked in shoe factories for minimum wage. My 6 siblings never made it past elementary school because they had to start working in a factory to help at home. And both of my younger brothers went to prison more than once. But I felt different from a young age. I absolutely loved studying and learning, and my dream as a kid was to give my mom a house so she could leave my dad. I always felt so sorry to see her working so hard and being mistreated. I remember making cards for her on Mother's Day, drawing a house and promising her one day I would give her one. And I was very good at school. I wasn't the brightest, but I was very dedicated because I knew that studying was the only way to change my life and fulfill my dream of giving my mom a house. When I finished elementary school, my parents said that I should drop out of school to start working in a factory like my older siblings. I remember crying on my knees on the kitchen floor, and I was only 14, begging my mom to let me continue studying. I wanted to go to a technical school to study interior design, which was the only free course in my city. And so eventually I did. For 3 years, I studied all day from Monday to Friday, and on weekends, I worked as a manicurist to buy materials for my course. But I still didn't have enough money for the bus, so I walked most days. The school was about 45 minutes from my house. But no matter what the weather was, or if I was sick, I was always there walking to school. Of course, it wasn't easy, but I was just so happy to be able to do it because I felt privileged compared to my siblings who didn't have the same opportunity. And once I finished school at 18, I started working as interior designer, which I did for a few years. And I really wanted to go to university then, but I didn't have the money. But then I learned about a scholarship created by the government, which was very competitive and hard to get, but it was the only way for me to go to uni. So I studied really hard for the test, and I didn't pass on the first year, but I tried again on the following year, and I got in. I studied civil engineering and got my bachelor's degree in 4 years. During most of uni, I was working as an engineering assistant at a petrochemical plant because I already had a degree in design. It sounds so easy when I say it like this, but it was hard. I took all the subjects each semester, studying at night while working during the day. And I used to get at home from uni at around midnight because I was the last one to be dropped off by the bus. And very often I was waking up at 4 a.m. to study for exams before starting working at 7 a.m. again. But once I finished uni, my career as an engineer took off because I already had technical experience. And I've always been super dedicated, so I was competent at my job. And once I was able to save some money, I finally fulfilled my dream of giving my mom a house. And it was one of the happiest moments of my life. It is a simple house, it's just a cottage, but it is a place where she would be safe and very happy. My dad eventually recovered from alcoholism as he got older and things settled down, so they lived together in the house for a while. We all had forgiven him by then, because we understood that alcoholism is a disease. And when he was sober, he was a good person because he had a good heart. I mentioned traumatic moments here, but we also had good memories together, which is the one that I focus on now. Unfortunately, he got sick from dementia and heart attacks, and he passed away, which was a huge loss for our family. I was living a comfortable life in my 20s, managing and signing off the construction of 6 residential buildings at once as the principal engineer, living in a duplex apartment in a capital on my own and studying MBA in construction management. And I was enjoying my life, going to parties and traveling, and life was good. But after a while, I started feeling like I had no real purpose anymore. I realized that I didn't have another big dream besides giving my mom a house. And I never dreamed about getting married or having kids, so that wasn't even a thought in my mind. Then I started to get really stressed at work, and I also began eating compulsively. I put on a lot of weight, and I was sad and angry all the time. I remember eating 2 boxes of chocolates every day, eating 1 chocolate after another and crying at the same time. And I didn't want to shower anymore. But I could keep up a facade on the outside as if I was okay. But in reality, everything seemed empty. I had no funds at the parties anymore, and I couldn't fall in love with anyone. My heart was like a rock. And I didn't want to live anymore. I would be relieved if my life was ended. Then I started therapy, and I was diagnosed with an eating disorder and depression. My psychiatrist at the time prescribed a strong medication, which literally saved my life. That's when I started meditating as well. It's about 11 years ago. And I started seeing things clearly again. At the beginning, it was hard to meditate though, until I learned the things that I shared in this video. I'll leave the link below in case you're new to meditation. So in therapy, I learned about my childhood traumas. The reason why I never dreamed about getting married and having kids was that I saw the life that mom had with so many kids in a broken marriage, being beaten and cheated on. So unconsciously, that was what marriage looked like for me, and I didn't want that. I just wanted to make enough money to be independent. But eventually I noticed that I was so focused on my career that I forgot the real value of life. I had to have everything that I wanted financially, which wasn't much anyway, but it was enough to learn that it wasn't bringing me real happiness. In fact, the pursuit of money was making me sad because of the stress. And that was the first aha moment I had in life. I learned that money can buy you a house and fun experiences and make you happy for a moment, but money cannot buy you love and long-lasting relationships. It can't buy real love and the will to live. And if there is one thing that I'm extremely grateful for, is growing up with a lot of love. And I have my mom to thank for that. She's the most loving person I know, and she's a true warrior. She's my hero. I actually talk about what brings us happiness according to scientific research in this video. I'll leave the link below. So then I started doing volunteer work to help children in poverty. I offered engineering services for free to help regulate a child center. And it made me happy to help. But I still felt the need to do more with my life, and I was feeling stuck. So I decided to move to Australia and start my life from scratch. And that's what I'll tell you in the next video, along with my second biggest aha moment. I'll leave the link below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell. I've got plenty more content coming your way. Your support means the world, so thank you so much for being part of our community. See you soon.